The two sides of nature. Nature seems to manifest itself in two states, the physical and the metaphysical. The physical form consists of all material existence, both visible and invisible. This phase is identifiable through the five human senses of touch, taste, sight, smell, and hearing. The metaphysical phases of nature, however, on the other hand, covers all forms that may be beyond common comprehension. For example, things like the energy content of the universe, forces like gravity, and even phenomena like psychology of the cosmos refer to theory of Holon, etc. Human sense can, in some cases, be developed to a different dimension called the sixth sense. This sense gives one the capacity to tap into the realm of the metaphysical and fathom certain superhuman phenomena. It may be pointed out at the very outset that this is not a scientific paper and relies heavily on common sense, derived logic, and some conjecture. It should be approached with an open mind and seen in the context of what it is trying to say rather than seeking proof for its refutation. A closer examination of two phases of nature reveals that it is really the metaphysical mode of nature that permeates all aspects of thought, word, and deed, the triad of human existence, and that the coordinated manifestation of the three results in the making of a human being. Energy and matter are related and interchangeable as per Einstein's famous equation. E is equal to mc square. The equation is an epoch of human thought. It explains and enhances the understanding of the hitherto unquestionable concept of the indestructibility of matter. Now, matter and energy are understood to be interchangeable. Matter can be thought of and explainable as rest or dormant energy. It takes a large amount of energy to be condensed or dormanted to convert to a small amount of matter, whereas the destruction of a small amount of matter can result in the release of a large amount of energy. The process of creation of energy by the transformation of matter has been adequately demonstrated through various experiments. The atomic explosion is the most common example, where the destruction of a small amount of matter can result in the creation of an intense amount of energy. Having grasped the idea and the relationship between the interchangeability of matter and energy, it comes to mind to study the relationship between another interesting phenomena, that of thought or idea and energy and their correlation. Thoughts, like matter, seem to be some form of energy-related process and or a manifestation of it in another domain. And like matter, it may also be dormant or rest energy in a realm of its own, different from the physical world. Now, if energy and matter are equatable as per E is equal to mc square, then thought may also be equatable to energy and vice versa in a similar form, perhaps as T is equal to Ek, where T stands for thought, E for energy, and K would be a constant or an equating factor. To fulfill or establish an idea or thought, it has to be brought from the realm of the metaphysical and be expressed as words or plans. This plan has then to be acted upon in the physical world in order to produce some effect on the senses. But to act, one requires energy. Where does this energy come from? It seems to take birth due to a similar process as that of the convertibility of the energy to matter. In the net analysis, it is the thought or the metaphysical which, when harnessed consciously, converts to the domain of words or plans, and when those plans are acted upon, get transferred into a material existence. physical world thus seems to be the end result of the metaphysical thought or idea. Now, to fully appreciate the equation, we have to understand the function of the term K. This seems to be nothing more than the level of intensity or the gravity of the desire to know or to be aware or to achieve. That is, the greater the demand or need, the higher the quest, the deeper the thought. This results in the overflow of energy from the cosmic reservoir, which then leads to the level of effort needed to convert the thought into the physical world. Now, thought seems to reside in the tranquil world of the unconscious and has to be first brought out of its slumber of undisturbed existence and made understandable by bringing it to the mode of consciousness. How this happens is still a subject of both psychological and scientific research. As just said, science has shown that according to the laws of the conservation of energy and matter, the physical and the metaphysical phases are interlinked, and that they can be generated one from the other. If matter, the physical entity, is a derivative of energy, which is the metaphysical content of the cosmos, then the physical state is really the conversion or transformation of that metaphysical. It is then perhaps the metaphysical alone that may be required for the existence of the entire cosmetic system, and seems to be its sole originator. Astrophysicists observe that the metaphysical or non-physical content of the universe is far greater than its physical. And if empty space is also taken into account and considered to be some form of metaphysics, then the existence of the physical part is reduced to a very small portion of the entire universe. Remember the saying that it is mind over matter. For is it not the mind, the metaphysical, that conceives, and the body, the physical, that acts or implements the idea? So metaphysics or the non-material seems to be the principal or formative ingredient of all natural phenomena, originating at the metaphysical level and reaching a completion at the physical. This is perhaps due to the fact that the thought or idea is in a free state of being when in the unconscious, and it is light and free to move in any of the three directions at any given moment, much like water when in the gaseous state, or so to say, as water when in the form of steam. The conscious redirection of the content of thought in the process of its conversion to word or plan seems to reduce its freedom of movement and its fluidity from 3 dimensions to 2. This is like the case of water when condensed from steam, where steam had the freedom to move in all 3 directions at the time, but as water it is restricted to 2. A further transformation of word or plan to action in the physical world is akin to the change of state from liquid to solid. For a solid is nothing but the fixation of the liquid state. This reduces its movement to a single direction at any given moment of time. This just goes to show that the change in energy brings about changes in the nature of freedom and or ability of the entity. However, it is interesting to note that once the physical state begins to accumulate upon itself, it gains the capacity to coalesce and intensify its property of attraction. This it does by virtue of the strength of the force of gravity. So much so that when and if matter becomes a black hole, a highly dense form of matter, not even light energy can escape from its grip. Thoughts or ideas exist at the metaphysical level and originate from the activities of chemicals in the brain. Or is it the reverse? That is, the impingement of thoughts on the brain result in the release of chemicals in it, which then transmits signal to its agents, the senses, to promote activity in life. This intricate question, much like the chicken and the egg situation, has kept man probing and guessing for answers from the time he started to think about himself. Now, if chemical activity is the basic cause, then chemicals and how they work are questions for scientists and medical experts to decipher, and are best left for them to tackle. But if the thought is the origination of the process, then speculation and philosophy can try its hands first. However, for the present it is sufficient for us to accept the fact that some process does happen in the brain, and that this is what keeps man alive, thinking, planning, and acting. One idea that emerges from the recent scientific experiments is the fact that to neuroscientists, learning is a biological process in which the connections or synapses among the brain nerve cells becomes stronger. That means processed information leaves a physical trace within the structure of the brain. The more often the connection is activated, the stronger it becomes, making us smarter. Or, as seen in the case of memory, the more one repeats, the stronger it becomes. The working of the synapses and the conversion of the metaphysical through to the physical is still not clear knowledge. However, the metaphysical thought does seem to have an interaction with the physical through these synapses. The intangible idea or thought sets in motion some activity in the brain. This is responsible to convert the thought to an expressible form through words or plans. Words are the intermediary stage of giving vent to feelings and are instrumental to bring the idea or the abstract to the domain of physical existence. Now, to be able to flourish and achieve material being, these thoughts or ideas that result in words or plans have to be acted upon through the performance of acts or deeds. They can then be established or said to have an effect on the material world, which is recognizable by the senses. In other words, the tangible ideas or thoughts have to go through a process of expression and planning, and then through action can be made into tangible things or objects. The entire activity comprising the process of thoughts, words, and deeds goes to accomplish the functions of the triad of being. And as said earlier, that though each is a complete domain in itself, yet have to act in conjunction with the others to complete the picture of the triad. Were a thought or idea not expressible in words or plans, it would be very difficult to put it in practice and action. It would then remain an innate or a dormant notion, not able to leave any effect or accomplish any change in the material world, or perhaps be like instinctive acts geared to realizing the effect unconsciously, as seen in the case of lower forms of life. It is in the nature of humans to question, verify, and judge, and only then accept or reject the validity of an idea. If the effect of a thing can be felt and observed, it can be experimented with and then proven or disproved. Now, the difficulty of experimentally proving the relationship of thought and energy is due to the fact that both are metaphysical entities existing in a non-physical realm, and thus not easily verifiable by direct physical experiments. Their correlation can perhaps be observed by their effect on, say, the reactions of a person or his psychological behavior, and thus inferred through some indirect experiments. Let us take an example here. A child is a conception of thought or manifestation of an idea to conceive an offspring. Once the thought occurs in the mind, it is expressed and acted upon to get an effect. Sometimes this entire thought process is consciously understood and knowingly implemented by the conceiving couple. But sometimes the outcome is the involuntary result of the act, much like the instinctive behavior of animals. Thoughts have to be shown the light of the day by putting them through a plan and action. In any case, a reaction is the result of some action and could not have come about in isolation, one of the other. The action performed on thought is the cause or stimulus, the effect or outcome of which is the material form that comes forth. And it is this form which leaves its effect on the senses. In the human system, the conversion from a pre-born state to human shape at birth must also be an addition or incorporation of some kind of energy, force, or power to the previous level. There also must be a pre-birth stage, which is the fluid state of energy with the capability to traverse any direction freely. This is the stage or level of idea or thought alone, as seen above, a state of energy capable of free movement in any of the four dimensions of the space-time continuum. A further conversion or the implementation of this thought or idea through the expression or plan takes a direction of restricting the movement or fluidity from the 4 to 3 dimensions. The form of the formation of the fetus is the physical manifestation of the idea or thought having traversed through planning to the action phase. The process results in the change or transformation of the energy from complete freedom of movement to finally the direction of material existence in the world. This transformation of energy or the evolution of it would enable it to withstand the conditions of this material world and also to bear the rigors of independent existence. The whole process does not seem to be an instantaneous process but requires a period of many months of incubation. The energy coupled with other metaphysical forces of human psychology rear up the body materially in the melting pot of the womb to a human level of independent self-experience. The living of life through the material mode is akin to going through the process of another change or some form of further readjustment in the energy content. That is, going from an unconscious mode, which may require low kinetic energy, to awareness, which may need more kinetic energy to remain vigilant and be able to act. When sufficient energy, or as in our discussion above, enough knowledge and awareness has been accumulated by the physical phase, and that which has left some effect on the material world during its span of existence here, another change of state becomes imminent. This change of state in the case of living things is called death. Seen this way, death is nothing but a mode of transference of existence from one state to another. To recollect what has been said above, a human seems to be born in an unconscious or unaware state, out of which it struggles to gain consciousness and knowledge all its life. This it may do either consciously or otherwise. But having traversed this phase, it transfers to a super or above the physical state of living to some other form of existence. Seen this way, the whole triad of birth, life, and death takes on a new meaning, and death then comes to be seen as a form of transference from one form of living to another, and not as an annihilation of existence altogether. The dawn of civilization, the rising of the sun, the attainment of life to its optimum capacity, etc., are symbolic of enlightenment, vitality, and awareness of capability. As we have been discussing all along, awareness and knowledge is the key to all survival and meaningful existence. Maximum strength is visible at the prime of life. Most vitality and energy from the sun is gained at its peak, the noon hour. The passage of the entire creation or the cosmos through the period of a given day adds to it something extra, enhances or evolves it in some form, either consciously or unconsciously, and raises its level in some way and perhaps makes it more valuable. To elaborate the idea further, let us see the change that has taken place in the life of man himself. He started as an uncivilized cave dweller and gradually evolved to the level of being able to build skyscrapers and live in them. All along the period of this change, he acquired some knowledge and awareness of the world and surely became more capable and perhaps added more valuable experience to his own capabilities with the passage of time. To traverse the path of life from birth to death to the prime and then to death is to accomplish, as seen elsewhere, the act of self-consummation, knowingly or unknowingly, spending or utilizing the time and energy available during a lifetime in the pursuit of one's desires. The gain in awareness or knowledge is in reality the acquisition of some form of vitality, or so to say, fruitful use of the available mana. If this is done knowingly, self-satisfaction can be achieved and a higher meaning of life can be seen and understood, and one is said to have lived a fulfilled life. If, on the other hand, this is done unknowingly, all life is spent at the level of mundane animal existence, not elevating the mind or the soul. This is akin to being held back in the sieve or the grader of life and not be filtered to the next level of conscious evolution. One learns at every stage of life. The process of learning can, however, be conscious or unconscious. And as has been said, this process of discovering is in fact the act of removing the cover of one's own innate or hidden knowledge. One is really grooming oneself for the next stage of existence and is slowly evolving towards it. Death is nothing but this next stage of human evolution. Seen this way, death comes to be viewed positively rather than feared or mentally avoided. Further, this concept of the triad of birth, life, and death may be an evolution of the very thought itself over the existentialist belief that with death comes the end of life and all existence. The stage of living through physical and mental life is the process of the molding of the soul, nurturing or the decaying of it, as has been said elsewhere, through positive or negative actions of the body. The soul, which is a cohesive life force, may be an offshoot of the universal cosmic force and seeps through all living things. It is intrinsically integrated with each living cell of it. It is an evolved form of life, and it is a higher rung of ladder than the holon of the mind on the scale of holarchy. Therefore, it is perhaps not for the mind to fathom the soul, but the soul can understand and encompass the mind. The soul's characteristics can be speculated from the Holonomic theory, where it is seen that as the mind transcends and incorporates the holon of the body, the soul must transcend and incorporate the holon of the mind, and as a consequence, all holons before it. Now, studying the characteristics of the mind reveals that it is capable of receiving and processing thoughts through its interaction with the brain, and then converting them to words and schemes for actions. The soul must thus be capable of this, and one step more. The increase in the capability of the holon of the soul would give it the power not only to think but also communicate with other souls. This may be a questionable concept, but it is nonetheless the next logical follow-through step through the terms of holarchy. Extrapolating further, the soul would have a capability to perceive and perhaps act in the realms of this world as well as the next dimension of existence. This dimension itself may be more evolved than the realm of the physical universe. The soul would possess the capacity of both a singular and a collective awareness, meaning that it can exist in the physical as an individual identity and also as a metaphysical phase where it can manifest a collective existence. Like both the mind and the body, it can be promoted, developed, and evolved as just said. We have seen that in the act of sieving, the coarse grains are rejected and held back, and the purer or finer material passes through. The fineness of the material is really its improvement or evolution to pass through to the next higher level of abode. The same principle of selection is applicable in the progress of a self-evolving system. The system of mind, body or soul, or any other, where fineness and purity are desired, must also follow the same principle. The secret of progress of a self-developing system is its inbuilt capacity to use the method or process that promotes wellness, which aids in its formation from a coarse or lower level to evolve to the next higher stage. Quantum mechanics is the science for the study of microsystems, that is, systems at the minute end of the scale. At those levels, matter shows dual characteristics. It behaves both as a particle and a wave of energy. This may be a difficult concept to grasp, and it is more clearly fathomable only at the mathematical level. To express in terms of communicative language, it can be seen as a concurrence of a simultaneous physical and metaphysical manifestation, meaning that, according to Heisenberg's principle of uncertainty, if the momentum of a subatomic particle can be measured with some certainty, then the particle's position will be incoherent. And if the position is clearly determinable, its momentum will not be accurately ascertained. On consideration of this truth for a minute, one realizes that at the stage of subatomic particles, there is perhaps an overlap of the metaphysical and the physical, and the particle at that level is neither physical nor metaphysical. It may be accurate to say that the object is perhaps in both physical and metaphysical conditions simultaneously. However, one derives the inference that at that stage both states or phases are interchangeable and fluid. Yet the origination seems to have been at the metaphysical level, because that which cannot be ascertained with certainty is more in the realm of the unknown than the known, and that an unknown is not a physical entity, at best some form of speculation. The idea must thus reside at the metaphysical level and then be converted to an entity or a physical state to become tangible or become known. If all action can be broken down to its final rudiments, it too will manifest a similar disposition. That is, before execution, an action exists in the mind as an idea at a metaphysical level or pure energy level. The interaction of that state with the physical body, the brain, produces some effect in it, giving rise to consciousness. The consciousness of the thought then takes it through the process of planning or expression through words into actions. These syllables of words, unless expressed vocally or on paper, remain in the realm of both material and non-material existence at the same time, as if in a quantum state. Once put into practice, they become material and obtain an identity of an entity. They are then governable by the laws of classical sciences. It thus goes to show that all existence is primarily at the metaphysical plane, becoming an identifiable material presence by the converting process of the brain-mind combination, and then having lived through a period in the space-time continuum seem to dissipate into oblivion, yet leaving some effect on the material world of reality and human comprehension. Thus, human comprehension itself seems to be nothing but an infinitesimal extension of the cosmic awareness of nature of itself. This concept and its repercussions have been discussed in more detail in the essay The Nature of a Natural Deity. Energy and matter, as seen earlier, are both related and interchangeable as per Einstein's formula. To complete any idea or thought, it has to be brought from the realm of the metaphysical and energized and then acted upon in the realm of the physical. Now, to act, one requires energy. Where does this energy come from? It seems to take birth due to the convertibility of thought to other states of existence, depending on the content of the conscious, constructive, and cohesive force present in it. This is akin to the release of energy in the process of energy-matter interconversion as per Einstein. In the net analysis, it is the thought, metaphysical, which is perhaps some form of latent, hidden, or untapped energy, and which finally gets converted into action, a physical manifestation of it, having been brought to the conscious in a viable state after passing through the process of planning or intention. According to Aristotle, forms and ideas are not outside matter. The forms don't change, but matter can. Acorn in form is the same, but matter can change from acorn to tree to furniture, acquiring a different form as it changes. Matter changes and seeks to realize different forms. An acorn seeks to realize the form of an oak tree. A seed seeks to realize the form of a rose. Matter is thus taking on, striving to realize forms. Reflecting upon this and extrapolating the idea further, it may well be that man is seeking to realize its coveted form, God itself. Asadullah Khan Ghalib, the famous poet-philosopher of the East, makes a very profound observation when he says, "न था कुछ तो खुदा था, कुछ न होता तो खुदा होता, डुबोया मुझको होने ने, न होता मैं तो क्या होता." When naught existed, God existed. Had none there been, God would be. My own existence lowered me. Would I not be? What would it be? One meaning that oozes out from the above verse is that Ghalib, like Plato and Pythagoras, projects the idea that man is fallen divinity. Had he not been brought forth, he would have existed at the level of the deity itself. In the end, I would like to leave the questioning mind with my question for Ghalib lovers to ponder, decipher, accept, or reject. Now, and if and when I meet Ghalib, I will ask him as to why he did not write thus. न था कुछ तो खुदा था, कुछ न होता तो खुदा होता, सुझाया मुझको होने ने, न होता मैं तो क्या होता. When naught existed, God existed. Had none there been, God would be. My very being this made me see. Would I not be, what would it be? For if I had not been brought forth, I would no doubt have been part of the whole, but an insensitive, unconscious, ignorant part. My very being and individual existence gives me an identity of an entity, and is responsible for making me aware of that fact. Hence, it may be said that the form God is seeking to realize itself through the material manifestation of passing through the state of matter in the shape of man. Thank you.